in architecture is that you should show your workings. That's all.
You're not behind this show working.
Don't talk too much in architecture.
But it looks fine, and if you don't do that in school, the jurors may not appreciate it as much as they appreciate
your
the people
work may not be enticing.
Yes. So
I said we will not have it.
There's this battle of whether HN is equivalent to BSc.
it is not.
So it's important when sealing a drawing to go with a cover letter of
Yes.
some sort
To explain
to
your
explain
involvement.
your involvement up to what point
Yes.
that you are involved in the project, just for the sake of liabilities.
Okay. Hello, welcome to the Architects Dem podcast. This is the first episode of many episodes to come. In this podcast, we are going to be talking about everything architecture. Okay, my name is Onoche Chukwode, and by my right is.
Anosike Chisom.
And we also have with us our boss.
Yeah, architect Peter Odo. You're welcome.
All right. In this particular episode, we are going to be discussing what it means to be an architect. Okay, what you need to be an architect, who is an architect, and who can practice as an architect in Nigeria. So we are going to be exploring different perspectives, of this topic, based on the layman's perspective, and also what the professional body, that is ACON, the professional body that is a statutory body that is put in place to regulate the practice of architecture in Nigeria. Okay, so the first thing we are going to be looking at is, what does it mean to be an architect? Okay, is it the license or the ability to do the job? Can a person without a license practice? Is there any way that a person without a license, maybe the person went to school but doesn't have a license, can the person still practice as an architect in this country?
You can dream all you want to be an architect, but there are steps you need to take in order to qualify to be one, and in fact to practice as one architect in Nigeria. So the basic step is to get your basic education and get all the qualifications you need to enter into the higher institution. And when you finish your time at the higher institution, you also need to take some exams organized by the regulatory body. When you're able to satisfy all the necessary requirements of that exam, at that point, you can be licensed to practice as an architect in the country.
Okay. I don't know.
Legally speaking,
Yes.
you need a license to practice.
Okay.
But I'm a realist, so I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
So, of course, legally, you need a license to practice. But majority of the people that practice and do the work that we consider architectural work are not necessarily licensed. So, if I were to advise, in the first place, you can be legally certified. But even before you are legally certified to practice, if you graduate from architecture, you have some ideas on how to go about the practice of architecture, I will consider you an architect in training. So we have two grades of architect, to my own point.
Okay.
People that graduated from the School of Architecture that are practicing architects, and we have those people that are legally commissioned to practice.
Okay, then. Okay, because I know that there is a provision for someone who is not registered yet, okay, to design and build a project legally. I'm talking about legal. I'm not talking about, like, I don't have a license yet, but I can still design a house. Okay, I mean, building of any complexity. I'm not talking about maybe one story or bungalow. I'm talking about any type of building. Legally speaking now, okay, I mean, you get somebody that went, maybe I went to an architecture school. I'm still trying to get my license, but I don't have it yet. I am legally allowed to design. I don't know if there is a clause to that, or I can just do it and go and submit and get approval to build.
Yeah, we'll call you an associate architect.
Okay. Even without a license.
Even without a license. In fact, the road to licensure means that you have to practice before you are licensed. So once you graduate from school, you should be in active practice under the supervision of a registered architect.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately for us in this country, we have more people that are in this stage than people that are registered. Oh. So majority of the architects you see, if we were to take a census, fall into the category of architects that are not registered. We just have about 5,000 or 6,000 registered architects
in the whole Nigeria,
in the whole country.
Oh, wow.
So if you, compared to maybe 1,000 architects that graduate every year from all the schools of architecture, so you can do the maths.
Even after graduating, after satisfying all the education you need to be able to take this exam, I also think you need to do some form of provisional registration with the body.
Okay.
Before you are allowed to practice in that form you're talking about without being fully registered.
Oh, okay.
You don't just come out of the university and then you start practicing without getting provisional registration from the body regulating the practice.
Wow.
I think that is very important to point it out.
Yes.
So that you don't think that you can stay in your small space
And
without being recognized.
designing
by the body,
high-rise.
designing buildings and commissioning buildings.
The truth is, what we have right now is a lot of people that are designing buildings work under the supervision of registered architects.
Yes.
That's what we have right now. Hopefully, we'll have more registration as the time goes by, because everybody knows the challenges we have been facing with regards to registering new architects.
But that's
that's a different topic.
A different topic for another day. You get so, but before you can build what you have designed, you will need a seal on it. Okay, and he talked about provisional registration. Do you get a seal for provisional registration, or how do you go about, doing all those things when you finish designing your house? I've gotten my provisional registration maybe after doing my part 1 and part 2. I've not done I just got my master's degree, okay, and I'm not registered yet. Do I get a seal for provisional registration, or is it just registered professional?
You don't get a seal for provisional registration.
Okay.
That is the fact.
Okay.
Even as at the time that you are provisionally certified to practice architecture,
Okay.
you still need to practice under the supervision of a fully registered architect.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will use that architect seal to seal my work.
Yes, the architect will check and supervise whatever you are doing.
So if anything should happen to that building I designed, who is going to be at fault in that situation?
It's the architect that signed your work.
And sealed it.
Yes.
Yes, the architect.
So the architect better look into that design to actually see what I did.
Yes,
there.
because he's responsible for all the liabilities
Oh.
that will come out from that project.
Okay.
He's liable to everything because he is the main person as far as that design is concerned.
That is the architect.
Yes, he appended his seal to confirm that yes, whatever was done here was done in line with the standard practice and procedure.
So by sealing that work, he's owning the work.
Yes, you can say that.
Ah. Okay.
The first thing we should look at here is the various functions of an architect.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start from design, and then we'll supervise, and then manage the building.
Yeah.
So some managing, maybe not the work of an architect, but let's
like estate
let's-
managers.
Yes. Let's leave it at design and supervision.
Yes.
But if I seal a drawing as a registered architect, I might be approving the design phase of the drawing. I might also add a caveat that I'm not liable for
Anything.
especially if the client decides not to use me
If
for
you're
the
not involved
further
in
stages in the.
Okay.
So it's important when sealing a drawing to go with a cover letter of
Yes.
some sort
to explain
to
your
explain
involvement.
your involvement up to what point
Yes.
that you are involved in the project, just for the sake of liabilities.
Okay.
I also think that at the point when you are submitting that drawing for approval, there's always a place where you as the architect will put your seal if you are going to supervise that construction.
Okay.
I think in Enugu State, there is something like that where the architect will have to put his seal to indicate that
He's
he's
the
going
one
to supervise this drawing.
Yeah.
Now, if the architect is not going to supervise, like you mentioned, you can put a cover letter that your work or the scope of the work you did for this project stops at design.
Designing. Yeah.
So that when there's any issue that comes out of the construction, you
Yeah.
are not liable to it.
Okay. Now let's look at another spectrum of this our discussion, because we're in the age of DIY. Everybody wants to do it themselves. Let's say somebody goes to YouTube, watch a lot of videos of how to build their own house, and they want to save money. And they go, maybe their friend just finished building their house. They just go there, collect the plan from the friend, and go to their village. They want to build their own house by themselves. I mean, they have learned how to build. a house. So that is legal, right? It's not, because I see these people in abroad, overseas. They make a video of themselves doing their own designs, make a video of themselves building their own house. Some people might be getting the idea, once I make some money, I might be able to do this myself. Back in the day, traditional architecture, we used to build our own house in the village by ourselves. So I want to know whether it is still legal for us to build a doctor now, that performs surgery in the hospital, to just go and build his own house in his village or wherever.
Okay, if I will go first. Our laws have been structured in such a way that that is not a legal thing to do.
Yes.
So there might be cases where the complexity of the house is very simple. So if the complexity of the house is not that difficult, let's say a bungalow, an architect could design and have a lesser qualified person supervise the project, and it may still stand within the legal frameworks of the building. Now, there are many forms of contract. In terms of designing the building, it's important that once the project passes a minimum threshold, because there are some, based on by state basis, there are some buildings that might be so little that it's legal to tie your hands on by doing it yourself basis. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to build a farm shed for my goats and pigs in the village. Yeah, it could be a legal thing to do. But if I'm trying to design a duplex, because I'm not a professional, taking such burden on myself might put the occupants at risk. So you will not be able to do it.
But in this situation, the client is putting himself at risk.
Yeah.
So who will sue him?
The state, the local government council will sue him. And most of these laws are tied to taxes.
Okay.
So most times when we go to submit our drawings and do approvals, it's a way of generating funds.
Yeah, revenue.
So if you know all these things and you go through the stages and your building is not complex, fine. But once your building passes a certain threshold, whereby it requires maybe some complexity in erecting such a structure, then you definitely need some kind of approval.
Okay,
I want to start this by mentioning that this person in question doesn't have any certification in architecture. He doesn't have any knowledge. He just has an idea of how to sketch his dream building, right?
Yes.
We're not talking about farmstead now or a makeshift structure that you want to put up for
5-bedroom duplex.
talking about a 5-bedroom duplex.
Yes.
Now, why the person cannot design and build his own house is because, as he mentioned, the law stipulates that for every building to be done in a place,
Yeah.
there are laws regulating those areas. Now, this law requires that a drawing should be submitted to the council for approval.
Yeah.
And now, who is qualified to submit a drawing to the council? The architects and other allied professionals.
Okay.
Now, if you are not a member of any of these allied professionals or the architects, the council cannot consider your drawing for approval.
Yeah.
We get that straight. So that alone has ruled out that possibility of somebody who doesn't have any knowledge, or you're not an architect or any professional, to design and build their own structure.
Yeah.
Now, before these drawings are approved, what the council used to check, besides checking all the other, whether the buildings meet up with all the other regulatory requirements, they will also check the person who is appending his seal on the drawing. Now, mind you, he's not a professional, so he doesn't have any seal.
Yeah.
So that drawing is not going to be considered. So that alone rules out that possibility of somebody coming up to just design his own 5-bedroom duplex and build it. Then secondly, we're asking, he's building the house, so he's putting his own life at risk.
Yes.
Mind you, he may have family members, so he's also putting their life at risk. Now, the law has it that if you commit murder, even your own child, you will face the music of the law.
It will be versus
so
this.
That way, he's not just liable to his own life now. If he does that, he's putting the life of other people who are going to be coming to that building, including visitors, even you too, if you visit such a house, and your life is in danger. Your life is in danger.
And you don't know when the building will collapse.
Nobody knows.
It will even collapse during construction, which is when most bad structures actually collapse.
Yes, and everything will start falling apart. And part of the reason why he can't do that is because he didn't attend the school of architecture where they impact the knowledge of how to design good buildings and all that. But let's even talk about the School of Architecture and what we even learn from the School of Architecture. Okay? A lot of people, there's a school of thought. I'm not going to, it's not me, it's what people are saying.
Was on the street.
Was on the street. There's a school of thought that is saying that we don't learn anything in school. There's, we learn something, okay, but not things that we can use, while building the house, like for real, in the site. Like what we used to build, what we used to design and build, when we start practicing, is what we get from experiments and experience. Okay, so I'm not asking, is there anything that we learn in school that we, take into the world of construction and building, or is it just when we come out in the street, we learn, we unlearn and relearn, the important things that we're going to be using? The place of experience and experiment, as opposed to education that we got in the School of Architecture. That's I don't know if what I'm asking is.
I think he's in the academic field. I think we'll start with him.
Please.
Well, so let's take it from this.
Okay.
You're asking the place of both academic knowledge,
Yes,
as compared to experience and mentorship in the practice of architecture.
Yeah.
So we are comparing which one is more important. We can agree that both are important, but you can categorically say this. If you just graduate from school and go into the practice of architecture on your own, you can't be considered an architect in the real sense. So the architectural practice is a mentorship practice. It's a practice that is learned on the job. It's almost like in Igbo, you do waboy. And if you don't do that apprenticeship properly and you jump into your own individual practice, you will not understand and experience or know all the challenges that come with it. Now, why do I say this? The school system is very good, but in the school system, I'll take myself for example. I, as a lecturer, might have 20 or 30 students I'm dealing with. And no matter how hard I try, there are certain things I will not be able to communicate with all the students. And we do not have real life jobs to go on with. So the school systems has its shortcomings. And to cater for this, you can see that in almost every architectural body abroad and even in this country, you will need some sort of apprenticeship to go with it. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's good to know.
All right.
And not fight your bosses when they are giving you apprenticeship,
Okay.
demanding for excess pay.
Okay.
The school is like a stepping stone for the intending architect. Now, we cannot overemphasize the importance of the education the intending architect gets from the school. For example, in the school, you are exposed to your first client, who are your jurors.
Okay.
Now, your client tried to subject you, those your jurors in school, your lecturers, your student mentors, they try to subject you to the conditions you are likely to face when you start practicing.
Yeah.
For instance, you want to know that you don't have all the time. So
Yes.
they will make you know that architecture is time-based.
Okay.
Your clients may not give you all that time to design and come out with your fantastic design.
Yeah.
So they will make you know that these things have deadline.
And time is money.
Then also, when they are criticizing your work, as much as you have your own perspective of the work, design is subjective.
Yeah.
You think this thing should work like this, but your clients may have other ideas.
Yeah.
So they also make you, or they will also expose you to that kind of condition.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a stepping stone. Now, when you've gathered all this knowledge, in practice, it may be worse than you experience in school.
Yeah.
In fact, from experience, it has always been worse than you experience in school. So in practice, you get to see that the school has laid the foundation for you to now face the real situation in practice. So like he mentioned, that is why the body has made provision for a period of time when you are going to be tutored by a fully registered architect.
Yeah.
Now, during that whole period, you add to the knowledge you've gained from school. You face the real life situations.
Yeah.
And of course, all the knowledge you have will help you to be qualified to practice on your own.
Yeah.
So the knowledge you gain from school is good, it's a stepping stone, but it is not all you need to qualify to be an architect. So that additional knowledge you get during that whole period of apprenticeship sort of will help to make you well-baked for the practice and challenge ahead.
Okay. When you were talking, you said something about the school preparing the students for real-life practice. And I want to ask a question now. Do you think the architecture school really prepares students for real-life practice? And this is why I ask this question. When the type of design we do in school, it has to be, out of this world. You have to be very creative. You have to, you're not thinking, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You're not thinking about money. You're not thinking about cost, which is very important. You're not thinking about, because in this country, there are some things that you will do. You know that to get people that will do this thing for you on site is not going to, you might have to import professional, laborers from maybe outside the country, because there are some type of curve you'll be putting in your building. You know that this one is going to this one is not working. But it looks fine. And if you don't do that in school, the jurors may not appreciate it as much as they appreciate
your
people
work may not be enticing.
Yes. So where is the place of building economy? And how is it being impacted in students in school? I'm not talking about teaching us cost planning and building economies in school, and then when it comes to our design, you encourage us to just forget about cost for now and deal with the aesthetics and functionality, and not be concerned about the economy of what we are designing, because these are hard times.
Can you give example? Okay, see, if you are given a brief.
Yes.
If you are given a brief to do a design, I want to disagree with you in some things.
Okay.
Maybe. So if we are giving you a brief, there are two things I want to just point out. The first one is this: the brief always creates limits if you read it carefully. So if you are in second year, third year, final year, and the brief is to design for a businessman or a billionaire or a family of four, I think the brief already sets some limits. So you can just go ahead and work assuming to estimate the cost of that brief. Now, what happens is this. It's failure on part of the lecturers sometimes, but I think they do part of the job. They do some of the job to maybe guide students thinking of the cost. Many building economics costs are done either in third year or 400 level. I think they should be as early as second year, maybe introducing them. There are some courses that we can revisit and align them early in the profession so that the design can come through. But maybe I think in the wisdom, they want us to sort out functionality first, then we can go to cost. Then the other issue that caused this idea of having disjointed designs sometimes is that students try to explore their creativity. Because once you get into the field of architecture, there is this notion of creative competence that makes a lot of students worry. So they don't want to actually do a design that looks like what they have been seeing. So once you step into architecture, second year, third year, or even in your fourth year, you want to feel like you are Frank Lloyd Wright, the first two designs. So you want to be great, you want to be remembered. It's after you come out and then you do like 3 bungalows and 5 duplexes, then you can now calm down a little bit. So these are the two extremes that we are pushing it to. For us to get a solution, I think it's a balance between the students' creativity, the lecturer nudging them towards realistic ends, and then I'm very certain that within your fourth year design, you should have an idea of cost because you should have gone through building economics. So with this, I think we are not doing terribly well. I think we are doing okay.
Okay.
With regards to that.
All right.
For me, I think from the architectural education we got, the school is actually a playing ground for you. That is where you can explore your limits, to whatever. But then, when you go into practice, you realize that resources are limited. But then, the lecturers who also teach students in school, they also draw them to the fact that resources are limited, rather. So, whatever you are doing will still be quantified in terms of cost and how it will be realized.
Yeah.
Now, those courses come in maybe at the fourth year, probably because they are giving the student time to be able to explore all you can in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
Between your second year, your third year, when you start, when you were gone a bit mid into the design, your first degree, you would have explored enough. Then when you now get into your final year, which is your fourth year for the first degree, you are now conscious of the fact that cost comes into play. In fact, there are courses you take, building quantities and costing, building economics, that's when they come in. When the external invigilator is coming to jury your work, they are going to tell you, this thing is too expensive, this thing can be done, or this thing cannot be done. So they also draw that consciousness of the fact that resources are not unlimited. You know, so you wouldn't say that the lecturers totally ignore that fact. They know, but they want to allow the student first to express yourself.
Yeah.
Then when you are comfortable expressing yourself, then they can now tell you that there are implications to, you know, every line you draw on paper. You know, so you know that these things are going to be quantified and built.
Well, what do you think would be the possible solution to this, the workmen that we have not being able to actually convincingly carry out the elements in the design that we do, that we want to do? Now we are adjusting our creativity to suit the type of workmen we have available in this country. And sometimes we have limited material. We are trying to do everything with concrete. We are trying to do everything with HDF board. And we're trying to do everything with, you know what I'm trying to say. So is there a way that we as architects can help, you know, solve that issue? Because it's a problem. It's a very big problem.
I will say this. You know, we are, our generation, we don't treat blue collar jobs a lot. Meanwhile, it's the blue collar jobs that keep everything going.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody wants to be the white collar guy with his suit and everything, and we don't want to expand our expertise into the blue collar field. Architects should, to address the question you've just asked, architects should begin to invest more in blue collar expenditure, in blue collar investment, or so to speak. So if you're an architect and you have a creative idea and you find out that this is a gap, it's a business idea, you can take that up as and get into the blue collar field.
Like create a school where you teach workmen how to
find, or you yourself, you go learn and then bring that creation of yours into
from where?
reality. I think architects have done that in the past.
Okay.
Frank Lloyd Wright designed his own furniture, I think. Zaha Hadid also designed her own furniture because the furniture she's conceiving is not what is in the market.
Okay.
So now, on how to go about it, if you can think it and then you study the existing technology, you might be able to come out in some sort of way to mix up the existing technology to get what you want. Because nobody knows what you want. Is every technology you see here, somebody had a problem and thought that this problem is, you know, universal, and then decide to go after it.
Okay.
So we should go into more blue collar territories.
All right.
Maybe tomorrow we might be opening a bricklaying shop or a carpentry shop.
I also think that architects can invest in vocational training. Now, because you're talking about blue collar jobs, most people who are going to get into that field, we have to get trained. So if architects can invest in vocational training, a lot of our vocational schools are dying. Our technical schools, they are dying. Like in Nigeria now, you can count government-owned active technical schools and vocational schools, because these skills are acquired better in an organized setting.
Yeah.
Now, when you impart these skills in these young chaps who are able to learn, then they will be able to better interpret our drawings and our designs, and they'll be able to go to site and erect these things without hassles.
Yeah.
So architects can still invest in the training of, you know, students at the vocational training schools.
Yeah.
When you're able to equip them at that level, you know, you see that they will do well. You don't just leave it to, you know, masons at the site who get the apprentice and train them only at the site. Sometimes you need to experiment at the lab. You need to test new materials. You need to test things. These things can be done at that level.
Yeah.
They will be better equipped to handle those complex nature of projects when we invest in that area.
All right. Okay, so I want to take this discussion to a different direction now. we all know that in architecture, in our profession, in this country, let me just talk about Nigeria. Okay, there is an issue. There is this type of confusion when it comes to advertisement. Okay, so I want to know what is it about our profession that makes it improper for architects to advertise? You know, and first of all, is it improper or illegal for architects to advertise in Nigeria?
First, I want to debunk that statement.
Okay.
Architects can advertise. Now, as much as you may not be advertising like every other professional, there are provisions for architects to advertise. In the Architects Registration Council and Nigerian Institute of Architects Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics, there are guidelines on how an architect can advertise. I want to give you an example. Let me quote directly from that document.
Okay.
Under the guidance note, it states that an architect, a member, can send to architectural media a script about his work or about architectural topic that the architects have interest in, for them to be displayed in exhibitions or published in those documents.
Okay. And architectural media is like?
We have some media like Arc Daily, Arc Digest, some of those medias that publish architectural stuff.
All right.
Then also, an architect can put a signage on the building where his office is situated. Now, if you go to like legal practice, for those in the legal profession like lawyers, when you go to their chambers, you will see a signpost.
Yes.
Architects are also allowed to put a signpost on the building. Now, that signpost has a fixed dimension.
Oh.
The fixed dimension. It has a fixed dimension. The height of that nameplate,
yes,
they call it nameplate.
Yes.
The height of the nameplate should not exceed 150 mm.
150 mm.
And the width. And the width should be 450 mm. So height 150, width 450.
It's like a net tag on a door.
It's called a nameplate. It's a form of advert. It's called a nameplate. Then you can also put the logo of Nigerian Institute of Architects or the logo of Architect Registration Council on the body of the building itself. That's a form of advertisement.
Okay.
Then also, if you have a project, an ongoing project at the site, you can put up your architectural practice, the name of your architectural practice at the site, but you still have to adhere to the guidelines as provided in that code of conduct. The font size should not be more than 100 mm in height for those kind of signposts. Okay. So once you adhere to those guidelines as provided in that code of professional conduct and ethics, of course, you can advertise. And then there are also other provisions. I just mentioned some examples. Okay. Just about 2 of them.
So I cannot share flyers?
No, you can't share flyers. Neither can you go to
junctions and
put big billboards. Or
we do floor plans.
And we design here. We are the best architects.
We do floor plans.
This environment.
The cheapest floor plan you can see.
You cannot write, come and get your floor plans for 200k a year.
And I also think another reason why it's like that, from what I've heard from professionals, those who are in practice, they said it because it gives everybody a level playing field. When you allow everybody to advertise, those who have more finance can go to the best places. They can go to CNN and put up an advert to capture those in the diaspora.
Well, now in trying to make it level, it is still not level because those that are getting more jobs will get more opportunity to put up their advertisements.
But that takes us back to how architects source their jobs.
Okay.
Good. From our studies, architects can source their jobs in many ways. One, you can source it through community development. You can go to your locality, do a project for them, or even do a design and get investors.
Okay.
And then when you commission that building, you can put your nameplate there as the person who designed this building.
So you're creating...
Now, everybody in your community, if they see that project and they know that this is one of our own that did this and he did it well, they can give you commissions. Okay. That's one.
Okay.
You can also source jobs from your social group. You have a group of friends, you belong to a club, they can give you projects.
Okay.
From your religious group to your members in
the church. In the ministry.
Yes. If they know that you're an architect, they can give you a job. But my point, the reason why I mentioned some of these ways is because if you're not able to get jobs from this kind of circles,
that means something is wrong with you.
Something is wrong with you as a person. Something is wrong with you as a person. So that's I'm just trying to talk about that aspect of you saying one person may get the job and keep putting up his name and keep getting
more jobs.
But you can see there are a lot of ways to get this job.
Okay.
So you see that it's not limited to
And,
just one person.
the advertising thing in architecture is that you should show your workings. That's all. Don't talk too much in architecture. Okay. If you have the capacity, do the design and let the design speak for itself. Participate in architecture is asking for ethical advertising, not falsifying because the world of advertising is all false news. So in architecture, they've regulated it in such a way that you must show workings. If you don't have workings, that means there is a problem with you. And then secondly, if you look at all the ways that he has stated that we can advertise in architecture, it's almost trying to say if you are competent enough, you are going to be seen.
Yeah.
So an architect should not come and start saying, I can do this and do that. No. Instead, if you must advertise, go and get a design you've done, go and get a competition you've participated in, go and get your previous work, and let people see it.
How is it on social? You can post on social media, right?
Yes. Now in this day and age of social media.
Yeah.
In fact,
is there any rule on social media that we shouldn't advertise on social media?
The question is,
or put up our works.
Yes. The question is, how are you advertising on social media?
Putting up your works.
Fine. If you put up your designs,
portfolio.
Mostly a portfolio. It should be like a portfolio. If you put up your works and designs in an organized fashion, not necessarily saying, please come and give me jobs. It's almost like
put your phone
see
number.
what I can do.
Yes.
Do you understand? I'm doing things. So you're out there trying to make contact with people that can see your job. So the advertisement issue is actually in the details. It's not in the broad aspect of advertising. It's exactly how you should go about it, which has been stipulated.
So when you put your work up on social media, you just describe what you did in the work and leave it at that. Not putting it and say, write your phone number and say, okay, we do this thing for so and so. Call me when you want your own. We'll give you your own.
I remember, studying architecture, getting to know about, how architects do their stuff. Sometimes you get to pass across the street, you see somebody that will paste elevations of building or floor plans of buildings, and will put his phone number, and they tell you to come and buy your designs, buy your drawings. I mean, that's like opening a wide door of absurdity. So it's a noble profession.
Yes.
We have guidelines on how to do these things in an acceptable manner.
Yes.
So we can't just go about and start putting up all this kind of shabby stuff.
All right. So at the end of it, or after all said and done, what does it mean to be an architect?
For me, from the knowledge I have so far, what it means to be an architect is that first, you have to have the passion to be one.
Okay.
Because passion has to drive you. Because at the end of the day, when you start practicing, you realize that passion plays a lot of role. Then besides that passion for architecture, you need to follow the necessary steps to get qualified to become one.
Okay.
Which starts with your basic education in your secondary school. Then you move to a higher institution. Could be polytechnic, could be universities. Each of them have their own different requirements. But all of them are aimed towards the goal of getting fully registered by the body regulating architectural practice in Nigeria, which is ACOR. So when you're able to get that education from an accredited institution, then you'll be qualified to sit for the professional practice examinations. By the time you've satisfactorily, passed all those exams, then you can be licensed to practice.
Yeah.
So it starts with the passion, getting your education, and then writing your certification exams and satisfying all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, on what it takes to be an architect, right?
Yeah.
For me, what it takes to be an architect, I don't want to go the road Chisom went to because it will be like repeating what he has already said. I want to go from the other view of what it really takes to be an architect outside of all the degrees you have. You see, an architect is someone that creates spaces for good living. And I think in summary, what I said it would take to be an architect is somebody that envisions the best kind of life that can be lived by people and create spaces for that kind of life.
Yeah.
So if you're an architect and you are designing a building, you are actually structuring the life of people. So a space that is built and designed properly, an architect envisions the way people are going to live and relate in those kind of spaces. And you see that good architecture have always brought out the best in people. You've seen it in their behavior.
Yeah.
People that live in good neighborhoods by default are better people than people that live in poorly designed neighborhoods. So after all your training and whatnot, do you have that intention to create spaces for people to live their best life?
Yeah.
My greatest challenge right now with the practice of architecture is the mad rush for us to just present nice designs on paper without any care or concern about what we are proposing or the life we are proposing for people to live in those spaces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So for you to be what it means to be an architect, you have to have love for your client to, be able to create a good life for them through your designs.
Yes.
Because if you don't love them, I don't think any of those things will be.
Even for example, you don't love them, just want them to live good.
For their client, I mean, you should love them.
You should love them, just in case the God doesn't
You
work.
cannot give the best if you don't love. I cannot shield them from all these, things that will come when you are working with an architect. But when you were answering the question, you mentioned, polytechnics. There's a way that someone that studied architecture or architectural technology, because I think that's what they do there mostly, in polytechnic can just come and become an architect. But I don't know if you can throw more light on that, so that because some of our viewers might be in polytechnic and they will having this question: can they be an architect, like fully registered architects? In the real sense of.
I know that there is a route for those who studied or who acquired their education through polytechnic. There's a route. I may not have all those information about the routes, but from what I was told, I can just sketchily tell you what they can do to get qualified. I think they first do their OND, then their HND.
Yeah.
Then, there's this battle of whether HND is equivalent to BSc.
It is not.
And as at now, it is still
You are fighting the battle.
It's still not equivalent. So I think after their HND in an accredited institution, they are meant to do what they call either finance 1 or 2 and then the PPE. May not have all those information. I think there's a route.
You know what? Let's just leave this talk because I think it's a broad talk. We're going to address it fully in another episode. Okay, and I think our podcast is actually getting long. I think we should call it a day. All right, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, if you did, please give us a like. Subscribe if you have not subscribed. Okay, follow us if you have not already following us. We are on multiple outlets. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Okay.
We should be going on Spotify with this podcast.
Yes, we are on Spotify too. We are also on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, check the description to see our handles for all those, outlets. All right. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We're going to see you in the next episode.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah.